Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is Olive, and it is under construction. And so we're making a series about it. If you didn't know that, I don't know why you're here, to be completely honest. Maybe you're here to learn that we're making a series called Under Construction, and this is it. And we're going to work in our town today. Actually, I'm tempted to not work on the town that much, because I want to get some of these trees in place that we don't have in place right now. And it's going to be kind of a bear to do, because we've got to copy-paste these big sections of trees, and then we have to delete the ones that don't matter. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean the ones that are in the way of things. So basically, we're going to try this. Not here. Because that's dangerous. But I'm gonna go try it over there. Over there is too complicated. There's too much stuff that can go wrong. I basically just want to know if I can get away with doing this without crashing the game this time. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And I'm tempted to run the forest right up to this road here. I don't really know what... Oh, you know what? I know what I'll use this area for. Oh, I didn't copy the textures. Okay, well, game didn't crash yet. That's a good sign. I need textures. Thank you. Can I, like... Is there an awkward gap there now? Actually, it's not too bad. Okay. I think I'll just extend it this way. Here's where the issue comes in, why I need to do this. Because then we copy over something and we have to do that. That. There we go. And that isn't too bad, but I don't think that road has a specific texture underneath it. Actually, it does. Kind of blind. I hope I did get one person, I got TBA saying the music was a little too loud last time. I turned it way down this time, and I hope it's better, but I honestly have no way to accurately gauge how loud it is compared to my speaking voice until after I've already made the episode, so it's something I'll have to work on and just kind of get a feel for. Maybe I should put a little mark on my whatchamacallit? Well, on my screen. I'll draw it there. Say, okay, when you scroll the YouTube window to this point, the volume bar should be here. And same thing with my actual volume here on my desk. I need to have a thing. Our volume bar. My actual speakers. It's not called a volume bar. Whatever. If you guys didn't know what I was talking about, that's okay. Alright, so we haven't crashed yet, so that's a good sign. I think I might make this just a vacant lot. We're getting to the point where I'm very much liking the vacant lots because they're not a lot of work. And they are fairly passable in most scenarios. I mean, over here, honestly, what's going to be here? It's next to the it's wedged between the highway and the old main line. So, I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going to be here. You wouldn't really put anything here. Maybe a siding, if you felt like it. Although this is where the siding was that went to, yeah. That went this way. But that was disconnected ages and ages ago, so there isn't even a remnant of it out here. I don't think anybody on the... I don't think anyone in the fire department is like, you know what we need? We need that spur back. Just nobody's bothered to pull the rails out of the dirt lot. Also, nobody's going to go for that because they would have to cross the highway. It's been done, it's just not done often. In fact, there is a place I want to visit where it's sort of like that. So, I guess what I'm working on now is this area in here. I'm sort of going on a whim. I didn't plan this episode. Mostly because I mean, I won't say I've hit a wall, because I haven't. I could do plenty more with Olive. I just kind of want to you know, wait until we get to that hour in, go over what people's suggestions are for the town, and then try to implement them. Because, I don't know, I'm not feeling particularly creative with it at this point. It's just like, I'm a little bit played out. I could do more. I could force myself to do more. I just don't feel like it'd be very good. There are some areas in Olive already where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm digging what I made. And that dirt lot as well. So I was talking about empty lots. We've already got a dirt lot over there, and I don't really know what to do with it. That's you know, that's location number one where I actually have sort of run out of things that I'm like, I should put this here. I was staring at it earlier, and I thought, you know, it would be funny because we've got the Corsair Park next to it. I need the like thick grass. Where is it? Corsair's up there, and I was thinking, you know, what would be funny if I tore out this road and then just made, and this road as well, I guess, and made from there to like here an airstrip. I don't know how long that would be. I don't even know how long an airstrip actually has to be. So I am not the person to be doing that. You know, not like an airstrip for jumbo jets, obviously, it's the 50s. But like a makeshift dirt runway. Although now, as well, I'm tempted to put that on the island, but I don't know how long they have to be. And also, I don't have... I mean, I guess I do, because I can turn on grid mode and count it in meters. I can Google how long an airstrip has to be. Although, like, if I'm looking up the Corsair, Corsair is a Navy plane, so... Should probably put some grass over here as well. Hold on, let's see. P-47 takeoff distance. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. It's giving me takeoff weight. I need takeoff length. Let me see. Can I... I'm getting landing length now. Let me see. How about take off? Nope. Nothing. Oh, I think I found a thing. It's on the World War II aircraft forums. WorldWar2Aircraft.net forums, so somebody might know what's going on. Take off. There's only one on here. Oh, guy responded to this? Come on. Come on. Alright, this guy is talking. He's saying things. Oh. 25-40 feet. Damn, son. Oh. That's for the P-47. The Corsair here is 630 feet. So, there's a little bit of a span there. I took like a bunch of minutes doing that. I apologize. I just wanted to know. So this thing can take off in like 600 feet. The other thing can take off, the P-47 can take off in about 2,000. So, the Jug is heavy. Of course, that's not, you know, I'm sure ideal conditions it could do better, and that's, like, ideal conditions for this. But, let me see, where's, like, the grid? Wait, no, that wireframe view, yeah. So, each of the big grid lines is 10 meters, I think? It's 5 meters, 15 feet. Yes? Yeah, I mean, 5 meters is about 15 feet. But 10, 20, 30. Well, is it though? Yeah. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That's 300 feet right there. That's a football field. So, I mean, I could easily fit in a, you know, like a 1,600 foot or 2,400 foot landing strip in here. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but I could do it. The other alternative is putting it on Dick Island here. That'd be doable. That'd be really silly, but it might be a good use for the island. You know, and it might be a little bit of a stretch to have a thing in a town like this, but it might seem like one, but it's really not. I see so many little towns that otherwise have airstrips for some reason, and I was trying to look up, like, comparable towns to Olive to see what the population of Olive might be, just in real life, and honestly, fairly good number of people in here, like several hundred people, probably. Not in suburbia alone. I haven't really modeled, you know, all the little roads that go off into the woods with the subdivisions or whatever. Although this is the 50s, that wouldn't really happen as much. You know, that's sort of... There are some more recent developments in how cities are made. That's... I don't know. It makes it a little bit different. So, and speaking of which, I was thinking of... So what I might do is, instead of, no, because I don't want to do that. I don't know. Like, instead of making this area whatever it was, oh, I said there was going to be something over here, now I don't remember what it was. Like, there was going to be something specific here. Did I say it was like a shopping center? I don't know. We've got shopping in here. A little bit. I need to put cars in these spots. But let's work on this area, because I just had sort of a brainwave about how this is going to look. I need, like, gravel. You, I guess. You work as gravel. So this got me thinking about the way that the port looks in Midway on the Connecticut River, which is just basically gravel with a bunch of boats around it. You know, we don't have we have a hotel downtown and we have a motel here, so we don't really need more visitor stuff. Maybe I could put a museum somewhere. I don't know what I would get to represent a museum specifically, but that's an idea. When we get to it, I remember seeing one of the comments mentioning something about a greenhouse, and I thought that was fairly smart. Just having like a community garden thing. We've got the main school. Do we have, like, an elementary school somewhere? They were building new ones sort of by the barrel, so... by the dozen, or whatever. In this period in time, so there should be a new one somewhere. I mean, and if city planning is correct about how things work, it would be right over here by the high school, so... I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, theoretically it'd be here. Somewhere. You know? The place isn't gonna be able to handle... The place isn't... blah. It's gonna be too big for there to be like a one-room schoolhouse, that's for sure. So... I don't really know. You know, whoops, no, I don't want sand. It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere. I need gravel, which is coarser and rougher. but does not get everywhere because it's gravel, and it's coarser and rougher, and it stays in place better. I do want to put the grass here because I want a line of trees sort of separating the entrance to the marina. Because it's, you know, it's not just a marina, this is a yacht club. This is... You do not go here if you are not in the upper echelon. Which, these shoreside houses, you know, some of them are showing themselves to be, you know, these McMansions. But of course, the McMansions are right near the sort of communal housing, so I don't know. Could use more stores over here, more little shops. That actually might fit, having some more shops here. And then this way along Main Street. We could add like a smaller, more makeshift commercial district here. And then the thing I was thinking of was if I tear out this back road, make this straight through, we could sort of pitch this as like they're going to build a housing subdivision here. And so we clear out some of the trees and we make the ground brown. But we don't actually do anything yet, because I've seen plenty of places where it's like, we're gonna build one, but they're not there yet. And that's, I think, what I'm going to do. You know, like, this is pre-actual any construction work going on. They've just cleared the area. We also don't have, like, a medical facility. So now I'm thinking about, like, if this is SimCity, what are we missing? Or, sorry, I need to keep up with the times. If this is City Skylines, what are we missing? And actually, we do have a police office. Right there. Which I need to, like, get some cruisers or something and park them in the yard. But we don't have, like, a hospital or anything. I mean, it's the 50s. You're kind of screwed. I mean, I say that, but you may have to pay your health bills out of pocket, but at the very least, it's going to be much cheaper. You know, the prices haven't started skyrocketing like they did, you know, a couple of years ago, or like they continue to do in a lesser sense. They're not doing it like they did. They're not. It ain't happening like it used to, which is in this case a good thing. Nope, nope, nope. Actually, speaking of that, I watched a video the other day. I was bored at work, as I usually am. And yeah, I'm gonna do what I said with that. If you guys couldn't tell by me deleting all the trees. I watched a video while I was bored at work, and it was of a, like, 1959 Bel Air or something at a modern Ford, I want to say like a Focus or something. Holy crap. Sorry, I had to, like, pause in the middle of that. Not on purpose. But, yeah, holy crap. Yeah, and that's when somebody mentioned in the comments, this is the most insightful YouTube comments ever get. That they don't make them like they used to goes two ways. Sure, they might not have those elegant curves and fins and whatever, but they're a lot safer. And it's kind of hilarious to watch these, you know, to watch the older car get smashed in, and then to see how the newer car fares, like how it has crumple zones and, you know, directs the energy away from the driver. And people, you know, there was a whole thing going on in the comments. Of course, it's YouTube comments. People are freaking out. It's like, you know, people saying that, oh yeah, clearly, you know, the other car, I don't know. I don't even know. People were just like, oh yeah, the old cars are built like tanks. And it's like, yeah, that's the problem. And you know, I'm definitely a fan of older cars. They're definitely death traps, though. Because they may be tanks, but the problem with being a tank is that it doesn't absorb any of the energy. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but the problem with, you know, say a solid block of metal is when you hit it, or if it's going very fast and runs into something, it just stops. It stops immediately, it stops completely. I'm trying to find this tool, thank you. And that's it, no leeway. And, you know, generally that sounds like it would be better, because then you're not crushing it. Then, you know, the car is good for another round. You can batter it around a bunch and it'll still be alright, and that's absolutely true. The flip side of that, though, is when you are inside that metal brick and it comes to a complete halt immediately. The issue is not then the car coming to a halt, it's you coming to a halt via embedding your face in the dashboard. And that's what happens, and that's why crumble zones are a thing and stuff like that. You know, people sort of are derisive towards modern cars because they crumple at the drop of a hat, and I'll be honest, they do. They kind of for no reason. But the reason that happens is because they're designed to, in an accident, you know, bar anything, keep you safe. And I've been on both sides of this argument before, which is kind of funny, because I was talking to Madison about my car and the older car, which blew the airbags, or I blew the airbags. It was my fault, but I ran into a stationary vehicle in a driveway at less than 15 miles an hour, and the airbags went off anyways. So, I mean, yes, it was my fault for running into the car. I don't feel like the bags going off was justified, but that's what Nellie decided to do, and that's why she's in a garage. So, I was going back and forth with Madison, like, no, it's okay, because the older cars, they're built like tanks. I was basically presenting the same argument that, you know, that commenters in the YouTube section that don't know what they're talking about are, you know, were using, and I full well knew that it's like, I mean, there's a kernel of truth in there, and I'm saying the truth by saying that, you know, the car is tougher, but that's not why car safety is a thing. You know, I did have to relent when it came around to, well, you know, the modern cars, they're safer, they'll crumple, you know, they'll shield you, they'll take all the energy away from you. The idea is, though, with a brick, like with an old brick, you're not going as fast as speeds. Now, that doesn't really remove what the underlying issue is, but it's something, I don't know, it's a semi-mitigating factor. That doesn't help you if somebody else is going at extreme speeds and slams into you, so it's not an excuse, really. But, you know, I've tried to toss around the things on both sides of these arguments. And, you know, to an extent, if you could handle it, which that's not like a thing necessarily. It's not like a thing where you'd be like, yeah, I can handle a little car accident. Come on. Back in my day, we just shrugged them off and kept going. People these days are pansies that can't handle car accidents. I mean, I think car accidents are like the #1 killer in the United States, so maybe it's not a matter of being able to handle it. At any rate, it doesn't, I don't really remember where I was going with that, but yeah, it doesn't help you very much as a person in the car if the car stops suddenly and the car is okay. It doesn't help you very much. It's not, you know, a deep conspiracy by car manufacturers to get people to buy more cars. It's to, you know, make sure there are people to buy the cars, because it's not good when your consumer base dies using your product. Even if that's like a fully well-known, realized, and, you know, understood consequence of using said product being the car. It's like nobody goes out and gets a gun and is surprised when they find out the gun can kill people. Well, also this building's floating. I'm gonna need to rebuild this driveway. It's, you know, people like to call them, you know, 2,000-pound death machines, although they're not really death machines. They weren't designed for that. but they can definitely kill if used the wrong way, and you can die, you know, using one, even if you do everything right. Which, you know, there's a clever Picard quote there for those of you that are up on your Star Trek. You know, it's possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not failure, that is life. And yeah, that's something to stick by. But we're talking about cars here. And it does apply. I'm not saying it doesn't apply because we're talking about cars. I'm saying, you know, to get back to the topic, we are talking about cars here. And the cars aren't death machines, but they are machines which can cause death. Sort of like any large piece of metal or industrial moving equipment, things like that, you know. A train is not a death machine, a plane is not a death machine unless it's a fighter jet or a bomber or something like that. This is not working. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed this, but this is just not, it's not happening. Okay, we'll leave it like that and call it a day. Sure. That house took altogether too long. But anyway, speaking of conspiracy, now this is something that I wanted to bring up ever since I thought of it. I don't necessarily like to go on the vaguely political rants, or even the directly political rants, because, I mean, let's be honest, who wants to listen to that, unless you're part of the same circle jerk? Shut up, guys. You know, I am strongly against circle jerks. And in fact, if there's, like, all of one opinion in, I can't use that. Why did you point that out, guys? Oh, you know what? Okay, this one's okay. This doesn't belong here. This is too new. Well, I don't know. You know, see, I sort of wish I had, oh, carport. I sort of wish I had, like, 50s-esque, weird, you know, retrofuturism sort of things. But, anyways. So, yeah, not to, you know, I'm gonna get into this. Admittedly, it's not, again, it's only, like, pseudo-political, because nothing in what I'm talking about is directly partisan. In fact, I don't know why this thing exists, even if it is partisan, because I didn't watch the whole thing. So prefacing that, there's a 5-minute video floating around on the internet somewhere, and you can look it up on YouTube, and you should fairly easily be able to find it, because I mentioned it to a friend and he immediately found it. It was like, is this what you're talking about? And I was like, yep, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And this thing that I am ambiguously referring to up to this point is a video called The War on Cars, or something to that effect. It's one of the most ridiculous pieces of, and I have to just call it propaganda. I don't really know what else to call it. It's just like blatant. I call it propaganda, and but you know, in the same breath, I hesitate to call it fear-mongering. I don't know. You know, and these are terms that get thrown around an awful lot, and I'm not sure if they even have value anymore because of how many people just like to throw them out there. Like, fear-mongering, Nazis, you know, 1984. It's all, you know, whatever. It's all propaganda. They're in our heads. 4D chess. I don't know. But it's like, it's a whole bit, and I mean, you can watch it. Just remember to take the whole thing with a grain of salt. And that claims that the American government is trying to take away people's cars so they don't have freedom. Or something to that effect. It's the idea that there are policies that were put in place that are designed specifically to restrict cars and car ownership, and I don't think that's the thing. I mean, there are some policies which have effects on car ownership, but I don't think anybody woke up in the morning and went, you know what, we've got to take away their cars. It's such a ridiculous notion. It's just, you know, I can't honestly bring myself to believe that people believe that themselves when they created this video. You know, it's the kind of thing where it feels very forced to me that, you know, obviously it was created with the express purpose of getting other people riled up about the subject and getting other people to believe that, you know, they have to worry about this impending doom to their car culture, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. If it does happen anytime soon, it's not because of the regulations that are currently in place, certainly. It's because of just other things outside of, well, really pretty much anyone's control. Like the rise of not only electric cars, but soon the rise of automated cars, you know, self-driving cars. It's going to be a complete change in not only the way that we get around, but the way that we receive goods and services and things like that, you know. Car ownership is probably going to become less of a thing, I guess. Not like significantly less than it already is. Or rather, no, not like, how am I trying to put this? I didn't mean less of a thing, I meant less of a... I mean, it's going to become less of a necessity for a lot of people. And that's... Oh, you know what? You know what? I need this. I need this. I like this. Look at this. The anchor. That's perfect to put on the coastline. It's kind of small, so... I don't know. But I'll put it over here, I guess. Actually, you know what? I'll put it, like, over here, and I'll build it in conjunction with the harbor. You know, we needed a couple of restaurants over here, too. These are just all hotels. Okay. Hostlers Shanty. Hostlers and passenger car equipment building. Alright, anyways. Get back to the semi-rant. Oh, we got hospitals. Hey, we got hospitals. So it's... Yeah, if car ownership starts to fade away, it's not because of... You know, the main thing they cite is... Well, there's a couple things. One of the first things is regulations on emissions standards, or, you know, miles per gallon standards. And I know some people don't really like that. And I can understand that there's a sort of backlash against this just at a very basic level, but at the same time, I don't really see what's wrong with that, and in that, you know, on the whole, it saves everyone a lot of money, because if your vehicle is doing better on fuel, then you don't need to buy as much fuel, and that'll save you a lot of money over the lifetime of a car, like a lot of money. The little things, they add up. I, of course, don't, take what I say with a grain of salt as well, because I don't know everything, that's for damn sure, and I haven't done the math myself, but this needs to go in here, that's for sure. Yeah, this is a nice one. What the heck is that? But I don't feel like... Whoa. It's big. I don't feel like the loss, sort of, this does not belong here. This belongs by the railroad tracks, that's for sure. It's not supposed to be here. Whatever that loss is in, in other aspects, really balances out with the idea that I need to find a good place for this. This is not bad. I think it's too modern, though. Balances out with the idea that the rise of fuel efficiency regulations is, you know, an attempt on car culture. I think, you know, it was put in place for a number of reasons, starting with there was an energy crisis in the 70s, which is sort of what spurred it on, but this is, like, too new. I like it, but it's too new. But the whole idea behind it was just to make things better, you know, to help with not only pollution, but just to help with efficiency, to help with gas prices, you know, and again, there was rationing, there was, you know, prices were absolutely through the roof. You can look up the 70s energy crisis, and that is right about the time when a lot of cities started realizing that losing their interurban systems and commuter rail systems and stuff like that was not a great idea. Or, you know, was a little bit short-sighted. You know, obviously they didn't do it on purpose, but it's like, oh, you know, I'm sure they were wishing they could have kept it around more. And at that point, there started to be a push for, you know, we should return to greenhouse. Who needed a greenhouse? There it is. That's kind of unassuming. I'll have to remember that. There kind of became a push for, well, don't drive into work every day. Take the whatever. Take the T, take the subway, take the bus, even. You know, and I say that the T colloquially, I mean just commuter rail overall. That was identical cars. So there was this big push towards, you know, I need this right. Whoop, I missed. Oh, I got it anyways. There was a big push towards, okay, well, we need to sort of encourage taking the train or taking public transportation or something like that. And the way the ad goes about it, the way the ad brings it up is, you know, that this was done in order to, you know, sort of lull people away from their cars, but in a malicious sort of way. And whereas the reason it was done was, yes, to get people away from using their cars, but not to force people to stop using their cars. It was to give people another option besides using their cars, because using their cars at that point was getting prohibitively expensive and extremely difficult. And these sort of pushes, when you realize the efficiency gains of doing these kind of things, you know, of carpooling or taking public transportation. Sorry, I couldn't get the words out. Then it was kind of a no-brainer for lots of cities to continue going down the same way. You know, this is around the time when the MBTA came into existence, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, and they took over a whole ton of commuter rail lines out of Boston that had originally been Boston and Maine predominantly, and they started paying the B&M for the use of these lines, and they just ran commuter service on them, and they do this to this day on, you know, most of these lines. And it's, you know, it's just something they do, and they encourage people to take the T, but not because they don't like the idea of people owning cars. And this is where it really comes down. In the video, they talk about that the government doesn't want people owning cars because it gives you freedom. And I kid you not, this is not me twisting the video's words because I feel like I've done a lot of that by accident. I don't want to. I want to be as honest with what the video was trying to say in the video's terms as I can, because they made some valid points, certainly, but it was bent around this sort of focal point, which was the government wants control. The government wants to control how you get places, when you can get places, where you can go. When that really isn't that would, first of all, that'd be extremely Machiavellian, like, just overcomplicated scheme for what reason? I don't really know why they would do that. Then again, I'm not in the inner workings of the government. Maybe we'll get, you know, a certain brand of hotels cropping up everywhere and we'll all be relocated to it. But I don't think that's what anybody's playing at, you know, in the White House, Congress, or any governmental office around the nation. It's, you know, it's it's silly to think of. I'm gonna be honest. I was just sort of awestruck. Hey, we have 1920s trucks. All right, I'm using those somewhere. Did I use this already? No? All right, I'll use it here. It struck me almost as funny because it was just so ridiculous that, you know, the notion that that's their big plan. They want to restrict your freedom by taking your car away. When the reality of the situation is they want to make it so that there are just fewer people driving cars in the cities and things like that, you know, and even just overall, but it's not because they want to take the freedom away, because, you know, having that freedom is a really important part of owning a car, not for the sake of, yeah, more freedom, but like, you don't have a schedule, you know, the video's right, you don't have a schedule, you can go where you want, you can do what you want, you're not privy to anybody else, you don't have to worry about what anyone else is trying to do most of the time. So, yeah, no, having a car gives you a lot of freedom. I know. And pretty much everyone who has gotten a car and then either lost it or got it back or whatever, you know, especially even, you know, kids who grow up and then they turn 16 and suddenly they can go anywhere they want, they can do anything they want. You know, I had this revelation when I was, I don't know, well, yeah, when I was 16, I guess, is when I got the Volvo handed down to me for a full $1, and it was sort of like oh well, now I can just drive somewhere. Wow. You know, it's a totally different feeling. It's a, what the hell are you doing here? That took a little bit to show up. It's, you know, it's a totally different feeling. It's a totally different way of being than being tied down by public transportation. But the other thing that's important to point out is that public transportation doesn't exist for the sake of preventing people from getting cars. It exists to give people an alternative to cars for either those who don't want to buy them or those who don't want to drive them in certain areas. I have a car. I love my car. I never want to drive my car in Boston. I have done it once. I have had to drive to work exactly once, and I never want to have that experience again. You know, and it's not something I did for the prestige, it's something I did because I had to, because the schedules didn't line up for what I wanted to do, and parking was a son of a gun, and I had to get somewhere that wasn't, you know, that wasn't well served by the train, and that's something that a lot of people face, and if we had a perfect, quote-unquote, public transportation system, that wouldn't be a problem, but that's not going to happen because not everything goes everywhere. That would be insane. But also, the reason I found this video, this is worth a side note, the reason I found this video is because it's an actual ad. It's an advertisement on YouTube. And I guess right when, you know, I don't know what reason I got it was, but I ended up having this ad in a video, and I just sort of stared there in disbelief for a little while. Like, you know, you can sense it when it comes on. Like, you know, it's like, oh, there's something not right about this thing that I'm watching. Oh, what the hell? Yeah, you know, it's very strange. It was very strange to sort of witness that, and I would have loved to talk to the people behind it. It'd been like, you guys know this is, you know, this is really misleading. I mean, it's not just misleading because it actually talks about, you know, it actually tries to instill the notion that the entire purpose of the regulations and the pushing of public transportation is to prevent people from owning cars. Because the government doesn't want you to have freedom. What? You know, it's... I don't know. I can say it's ridiculous about 1,000 more times, and I still won't encompass what... I guess what I feel, or, you know, sort of what I'm getting out of the advertising. Again, I didn't watch all the way through. I'm not sure exactly what they were advertising. But seriously, you know, it's... Okay, to boil it down, because before I start running in circles like I tend to do, to boil it down, it's not full of necessarily lies, but it's very misleading, and it's based on what are essentially misconceptions that I assume the people behind it already know and understand. You know, for example, the idea that the government thinks that having cars is bad because it takes away the freedom. And that is the sort of kingpin in all of it. Now, I can understand if it was an ad simply against the regulations on automobiles because they make them more expensive, or something to that effect. But it's not. It's literally an advertisement about, be careful, the government's going to take your cars away. That's what they're trying to do because they don't want you to have freedom. And that's what it comes back to. That's why it's so ridiculous. That's why it's so, you know, I don't know what the word is. I don't have a word for it. I just don't know. It's the kind of thing where I have to sit there and shake my head because it just doesn't make sense to me. But you know people will go for it. You know people will go, well, yeah, of course, I see. You know, they don't want us to have cars. Terrible, damn government. The other thing they cite, and this is something I wanted to get to, is the fact that a lot of major cities are removing parking in downtown and stuff like that in favor of things like parks for, you know, parking lots and bike lanes for roadside parking and stuff like that. And yes, this is done purposefully. This is, you know, this is actively trying to discourage people from driving in the city or wherever. It's not trying to discourage people from having cars, though. Because let's be honest, when you're going to a place like that, A, it's crowded enough. B, do you really need your car? I've never been in Boston and felt, gee, I wish I had my car with me so I could get from here to there. No, because that's not how it works. You get stuck in traffic, because a butt ton of people are thinking that, and they are the traffic. Because they're not doing something else. They're not using one of the alternate methods that are provided to get in and out of the city, where all the people are, where all the congestion and traffic typically is. You know, the reason for discouraging cars is to cut down on traffic for the people that do have to bring cars, or, even worse, delivery trucks and stuff like that. You know, the supplies can't get to the store by magic, especially if that store is in, you know, deep in the city. Same thing with if it's a restaurant or something like that, they have to get their food somehow. So it's gonna come from a truck, and the truck has to get in there, and the truck could get stuck in traffic, and, you know, obviously it's not gonna be stuck in traffic for 2 days and the food's gonna spoil, but there could be an issue with having enough of some such thing, etc. And, you know, for emergency vehicles and stuff like that, but these are not very compelling arguments, because they aren't situations that come up all that often. Especially the trucks thing. Trucking in cities is normally done at night, in fact, to alleviate the very thing we're talking about. But if any of you have been to a major city, you will know that traffic's a nightmare. If you've ever seen a major city, like in a TV show or a movie or anything, you know, you see the line of 50,000 cabs in Times Square. And a little less these days, but still, that kind of thing. And you realize that's just how it is. And that's the thing that people don't seem... that the people that made the video don't really seem to want to acknowledge. The idea is to get people off of the road, not because we don't want you to have cars, because the government doesn't want you to have cars, but because they're trying to make everyone's lives easier. Especially for the people who do, and are stuck with them for whatever reason. Again, you know, not everything is visitable by public transportation. Sometimes it's better to have your car with you in a city like that, and that's why they aren't tearing up the roads. But at the same time, for the vast majority of people, you don't need it. You know, you don't need it, and there's really no reason to have it, and people just bring them either because they don't see what the other option is, or because they can. And the because they can is probably a small minority, especially considering just parking in Boston is outrageous. And that's, you know, I don't know, it's ridiculousness. If you see it, don't, like, get riled up over the government's trying to take your cars, because it's hogwash. To say it in the nicest terms, I mean, again, I'm not inside the mind of the government, I'm not inside the mind of our president or our Congress, but just from a basic standpoint of what the purpose of the laws that they cite are, it doesn't have anything to do with trying to limit freedoms. It's just trying to mitigate traffic. And to come back around to it, the reason why these laws are put in place, the reconstructions, the removing of parking in favor of bike lanes, the removing of parking lots in favor of green space, the reason those things are put in place is not to limit the opportunities of drivers. Well, to an extent it sometimes is, and it's something we've dealt with at work. It's to, it is at a small case, on the side, it's to discourage drivers, because if it's not going to be easy to get into the city that way, then why would you get into the city that way? Take an alternate method of transportation and stay off the road. But the major reason is so that the off-the-road solution is a better one. Bike lanes for people who are riding bikes, and there are a lot of them, and there can be more of them. And a bike takes up an awful lot less space than a car, it puts out an awful lot less emissions, and you don't have to fill it up with gas nearly as much. In fact, if you're doing it right, you don't have to fill it up with gas at all, unless you stop at Taco Bell. So, yeah, it's sort of replacing one with another, but the other is better, I guess. And in a number of ways it's better, not in all ways, because you're not going to go 50 miles on a bicycle, and you definitely would in a car. But it's just the idea that when you're moving around in the city, having that can be a lot more accommodating and honestly make a lot more sense. When I had to get up and down Portland, Maine, for a traffic study, I went up there and I brought my bike. There was no way I was going to try to, there's no way I felt like driving my car up there, and B, was going to try to get around in rush hour traffic, because it had to be rush hour traffic when we took these studies. There's no way I was going to try to get around in rush hour traffic in my car and still hit all of the places I needed to hit, count cars for 10 minutes each. 10 minutes at each place. In a car. It just wasn't going to happen. There was no way I was going to be able to make it to those places in time. Having a bike made way more sense. I don't know. In some ways I'm playing into exactly what the ad is about. The ad said, because they want you off the road. And, okay, they do. We do. Everyone does. You ever been in a car and been like, boy, I'm glad I'm surrounded by all these other cars when you're in traffic? Because if you said that, you may be the only person ever to have said that. Honestly. So, yes, they and everybody else on the road wants you off the road. Additionally, aside from the traffic standpoint, they want you off the road because you're a human, and you are probably a human with a license, but as anyone who's ever driven, especially up here, knows, having a license does not mean you know how to drive. On the flip side, trains are typically on tracks, and it's really tough to mess that up. So, it is, it is immensely safer to be on a train, or a tram, or even a bus, because, first of all, you are in a huge moving object, so if you get hit by some out-of-control driver, you're probably going to be much better off. And two, they have to be, the qualifications for driving a bus are much more stringent than the qualifications for driving a car. So, and I'm sure plenty of you have had crazy bus drivers, but the point is that they basically know what they're doing, for the most part. They, probably more than your average driver, your average bus driver or truck driver knows their vehicle, what they're supposed to be doing, what they can do, what they can't do, etc. Because they're trained on it. That specific vehicle. Very strongly they're trained on it. And I'm gonna put a greenhouse in this guy's backyard. And the other thing, and that I had to mention, this is different. Oh, it's a cute little one. Oh, I love it. The other one that I wanted to come back to is this, robotic car revolution that's gonna happen at some point. It's not far-fetched at this point. It's kind of already happening, and it's gonna be like the smartphone. Or, well, no, it's gonna be more like the cell phone. Because the smartphone was this huge, evolutionary leap in cell phone design, where it's like, oh my god, it has a touchscreen, it can do all these things, browse the internet, play a bajillion songs. Oh my god, it's crazy. What are we gonna do? I don't know, everyone has to have one right now. And, not having a smartphone these days is weird, and, cut back 10 years and what's a smartphone? So that was a huge change that happened, in a sort of longer time scale. It happened overnight. In terms of technological change, it happened overnight. And A, technological changes are going to get faster and faster. And B, let's get back to what I was originally saying, which was about the cell phones. And I'm too young to remember this, so again, take what I say with a grain of salt. Always do that, as a matter of fact. And if you have, something that you have a rebuttal to what I was saying, or you think of a good point, or something like that, that is another kind of thing that you can totally put in the comments, and I will read it, and I will respond to it, and I will probably discuss it with myself like I do right now, because I'm a lunatic, and I do that. But, get right there. I'm gonna put, the thick grass along the side. Extra thick grass. There. Come here. So, cell phones, right? They started out as a thing that were so ridiculously expensive, nobody would have them. It was crazy. And up until a few years ago, payphones were everywhere because why would you have a cell phone? They are incredibly expensive, and payphones are everywhere. You can just, when you get paged, if you happen to have one of those, go to the nearest payphone and call the number. And voila! You don't need a cell phone. You don't need to pick up on the go. What's the point? And then, slowly, everybody got one. And, you know, where it's weird to not have a smartphone these days, it is so much weirder to not have a cell phone if you're under the age of 80. And that's, you know, that's sort of a thing that just, like, sticks with people. Or, you know, it's just a fact of our current culture. It's just the way things are. And I don't know what to make of it, but it just sort of happened. And it wasn't overnight, but it wasn't slow by any means. You know, you can still find the occasional payphone. But cell phones have become such an innate part of our lives at this point. It's like, can anyone remember a point in time where we, you know, or, you know, it's like, you can't really picture life without one. I mean, you can, obviously, because you have imaginations, but it's difficult, it's weird, it's different, it's very different. You see a movie these days, or like an older movie, it's like, well, why, you know, they didn't have a cell phone. Huh. You know, they couldn't get in touch with one another. You know, it's like so many problems in older movies could have been solved if somebody had a cell phone and they could just pick up and call the person. You know, any long-distance communication issues that crop up in movies, of which there were plenty, because that was, you know, not like an overused plot point, but it was a used plot point, because it was something that happened. It happened a lot. You know, go back further and farther, and data takes longer just to get from point A to point B, and that leads to some things. Like, you know, that leads to a lot of stuff happening. Just the two-way radio was groundbreaking, like ridiculously groundbreaking, and it came just in time for World War II. So the war would have been very, very different if we did not have that. And then radar came from it, and that's another thing that revolutionized how war was being fought. You know, less hide and go seek in the dark, and more, I don't know, not hide and go seek in the dark. Like hide and go seek in an open field with nothing to hide behind most of the time. You just have to get better at camouflaging yourself with the grass or something. So, yeah, radar changed that a lot. Cell phones changed that a lot. But like I said, cell phones were sort of a thing that sort of drifted into existence. And it's not something that you noticed, but it's something that happened, and it happened all over. And I think the same thing is going to happen with automated cars. The only problem is that there's going to be a huge amount more backlash when we get to automated cars, and this, you know, whoever came up with that is probably going to go off on the same tangent, because I feel like, and this is, you know, this is my doomsday scenario, not really, but I know, and you know, this is a sketchy kind of no, but I swear that there will be a point in time, maybe in my lifetime, maybe, but maybe not, where you cannot drive your own car on a public road. It won't be allowed. You know, AI in cars will be good enough that they can be trusted to drive much, much more than humans can, and regulators won't want to take the risk of people dying. So they'll push for this safe measure, and that will pretty much exactly be what the ad is talking about. They're trying to take away your freedom to drive cars. The issue is still that they're not trying to take away freedom for the sake of taking away freedom. They're trying to do it because people are dangerous behind the wheel of automobiles, and also cause lots of delay. All the traffic ever caused by humans. Not one robot car I know is causing traffic. So, anyways, I can probably get back to that later, and this has been like a whole rant on this. You know, I guess you could say the ad is working because it definitely got me talking about it. But the idea is, the basic idea is, nobody's trying to prevent people from owning cars and enjoying themselves via cars. The main thing is to make cars more efficient, to make cars safer, and that's really wasn't... well, it was in a sense what they were touching on. One of the things that makes cars more expensive is the need to do that. and just to make cities more accessible overall, not to people without cars, but to people in general. Because you can have a car and not take it into a city. It doesn't have to be with you at all times. It's not tethered to you. It might miss you a little. You might miss it, but it's not it's not a necessity. You don't need it to live. Anyways. Okay. Top comments. We've got 4 comments from TBA and then some comments from other people. 5 comments from TBA. So, first comment, TBA Avenger. You should put more planes on display. There are tons of World War II planes you could put over there, or a railroad park. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know, I was sort of thinking of keeping the plane thing subdued a little bit, although, again, you did get me thinking about the aerostrip with that comment. But I've boxed in this side now, and that's going to stay like that. I'm not going to put the airstrip here. Again, if I do, I'm going to put it on Penis Island here. Penn Island, sorry. So, I don't know, maybe I'll probably put more planes elsewhere, but this doesn't seem like the place to have these giant, airplane displays. Although you do find them in the middle of nowhere. When I was in the Fort Indiantown Gap on the Pennsylvania Special with Madison and TJ and Chris and Weibel, it was like, oh, there are a bunch of tanks lined up here? It was in the middle of a military base, or, there was a military base there, and there were tanks and helicopters and the Mercy car as well for Pennsylvania. So we went to go see that. Kind of found out about it by accident, because we were looking over the area, and it was like, what are these things on the... Oh, they're tanks. Wait, they're tanks? Yeah. Tanks and artillery. Well, let me put down another little bit of grass here. But yeah, no, there will definitely be more World War II planes on the map if I remember to put them there. But it'll be in better places than all lined up here. I don't need them to take up too significant of a portion of town. I don't want to make it feel like it was that important. So, I'll apply that suggestion in the future. Now, 10446. I've got another ad here. Thankfully, it's not the one I've been talking about for the last hour. 10446 says, what if you put a greenhouse in the front yard of this guy's house? Front yard of this house. So, which one is it? It's the one with the irregular fence. Over here? This guy, yeah. Well, I've sort of filled his front yard up now. I did put a greenhouse over there, so that counts. You know what, I'm gonna put a 2 in the back here, you know what, because this guy has 1, that guy has 2. These guys had a family rivalry going back generations. That isn't true at all, but... They say they've had a family rivalry going back generations, but really, they only knew each other because they both grew up in this town, and secretly they're really good friends. There's some wholesome memes material right there. Actually, no, you know what? We need the bigger greenhouse. Oh, that isn't that much bigger. But it's the fanciest new greenhouse. It's built entirely out of glass. There's no, like, anything supporting the glass. It's just, like, sort of transparent. There. We'll put a little bit of dirt under it. Wrong button. There, give me that. No, that was, I didn't, oops, wrong button. Again, gimme the, there we go. There. Okay, so, and then he says, I only use GPS when I'm completely lost and beginning to freak out. I did admittedly turn on my GPS setting on my phone while we were on the Pennsylvania trip once, but it was only because I had to make sure if we were going to make a ferry. I was concerned, we were heading across Long Island, and I was concerned that we were going to be late for our ferry connection at the tip of Long Island at Orient Point, which would bring us to New London, Connecticut, so we could finish our trip. Because I felt like driving that way, because I'm stupid. But, oh right, I don't need a driveway over here, because the cars will just pull in and park, like here. I'm just gonna put, like, sand over here for some reason. Like, there's no way the beach was this far back. They just put the sand here to, you know, spruce up the resort. I should put some chairs and tables over here, though. Somewhere. Like, over here. There. Now we've covered that area. You know what? I need, like, a vaguely warehouse-looking building. Maybe a hangar will suffice. Actually, yes, it might. Yes, it absolutely does. Okay. Put this over here. Whoa, okay, that's bigger. Hangar de Ferme. Oh. Okay. No, I wanted to get rid of the boat. There. Already seen that one. Already used that one. I'm gonna use this as well. I know it's, you know, it doesn't really fit, but I'm gonna use it. And I'm gonna put the barrels at this end. And then I'm gonna move this over a little bit. There, the beautiful hotel looks out on some warehouses. The hotel was there first. Alright, so the music in this one is a bit too loud, so I don't already hear you. So, two good ones that well, I guess I sort of used the second one. Eastrail11 says, OMG, the first recommended episode was your second Locomotion episode, and wow, your voice changed and your mic. Yeah, I've gone back to listen to those episodes sometimes, and, you know, just a little bit, because I listen to the first 5 seconds and go, ah! But, other than that, yeah, good old days. And I'm honestly not sure if this mic was ever better or worse than the one that's on the Logitech thing. I just sort of preferred it. I don't know. It's got its issues. Honestly, it hasn't been very disagreeable lately, so maybe I should just be thankful for that and move on. They stopped working over here for now. I said I was gonna go to the other area. Whatever, let's finish the texturing. Oh wait. It's supposed to be trees? Yeah, it is. Time to copy paste. The rest of this episode should be copy paste. Should be. Probably won't be because I'll forget again. But should be probably. Just thinking about what needs to be done. Not like, oh, you know, it should be. But, like, I should do more copy pasting now. There. I now have to delete most of these trees. Everything on the road needs to go. Everything on this side of the road also needs to go. You need to go. You and you and you and you. You're too close. and you, and you. Yeah, this guy as well. The little guy there. There. Okay, that's good. Alright, good enough. Oh, you know what? We didn't put the grass here. God damn it. We should have done that first. Okay, time to put some grass down. Won't be all copy-pasting, folks. But yeah, no, I don't know sometimes. I don't... See, here's the thing. So many people complain, like, oh, I feel like I sound terrible. I'm like, I hate hearing myself. I don't necessarily mind it. I don't like it. Like, I'm not gonna sit back and listen to myself like, oh, yeah, that's great. Although sometimes I will catch myself if I'm going through an episode for whatever reason. I'll think like, oh, I should say, because I won't remember necessarily everything I say in an episode. Most of this episode's going to be blurred to me. It's like, oh yeah, I ranted about the stupid car ad for a while. But I won't remember what exactly I said. And it'll maybe vaguely come back to me, but it'll almost be like deja vu. And then it'll be like, oh, I should have said such and such. And then I'll say that, and I'll go, ah, I was right. So, I don't know, it's a weird thing to listen to yourself in past videos. Just for a number of reasons. Mostly because it makes you a weirdo. I swear I did it by accident. Go away, Blue. There. So, anyways, back to the car thing. If you haven't had enough of that. I don't know, I just feel like I need to round it out with something, because yes, the ad itself, in its basic points, is not wrong, but it is misleading about the intentions of most of the things it talks about. The gasoline, the standards for fuel efficiency were in place for the sake of fuel efficiency and not using as much gas, which was important and is important for reasons that I don't feel like I should have to say, but I've said already. And the same, and you know, even on top of that, it hasn't exactly stopped people from buying gas-guzzling cars. There are plenty of gas guzzlers on the market, and if you really need something big and chunky that sucks down a lot of gas, I'm sure you can find one secondhand if the current offerings don't suit you. Now, as well, car prices have gone up, but that, you know, that's just a thing that happens, I guess. Not like car prices go up overall. It's not like inflation where it's just a slow rise that has to happen. But it's not like people are conspiring to make cars more expensive. It is kind of, you know, it does kind of suck that you're getting priced out of new cars, but at some point, rather, the only reason that's happening is because people continue to buy them. There's, you know, either a stigma against secondhand automobiles, or people just really like getting a new car every couple of years. I mean, I certainly know a couple of people that do. I don't know why, they just can't resist sticking with the car they already got, but they have to lease, you know, and get a new one every couple of years because they get tired of their current one. I don't know. But that's nobody's fault. You know, you get a car, you keep the car, you run the car to the ground. You know, it's a simple series of events for me. You know, I'm not going around looking for a new car all the time, and if I did, I would be even broker than I am. So, don't do it. Nobody's forcing anyone to buy brand new cars all the time. People just don't keep cars their service lives anymore. Although I'm sure there were always people like that. But, this area's got to be filled in green, like normal green. Remember how I said we were going to do copy pasting? Whoops. I don't know what to texture that area, but I'll get to it. So anyways, yeah, no, it's... The thing is, cities and towns, let's see, it's because I'm working in the civil engineering business now. I can even get an even better window into this because we're actually doing something like this in Portland. In Portland, Maine. It was the reason I was up there. We're trying to tighten up the corridor. We're getting rid of parking. We're adding bike lanes. We're adding more bus stops, and we're making the bus stops that exist better. And as well, we're gonna put in some things to give buses priority, which just makes sense to me. And again, it's not because we don't want people to have freedom. It's because we want to get more people into the city more efficiently. It has nothing to do with a personal or, it has nothing to do with an innate government desire to crush freedom. It has everything to do with an innate government desire to throw out the excess and slim down and sort of play everything by the numbers. Which, can be better or worse depending. But it's just the idea that this is just what's happening. It's just what's happening is determined to be what will be the best for the most amount of people. And on top of that, it's an attempt to encourage people to use these alternate forms of transportation that exist, and thus not get stuck in traffic and not create more traffic just by being on the roads themselves. It's, like I said, a lot of it is fairly grounded. It's just the underlying message that's very propaganda-y, I guess. That, that's the part that put me off. It's like, because they open it and they talk about how, well, first of all, the whole damn thing is called the War on Cars. I don't know why you need to go any farther than that. It's a one in a series of made up, like, help, we're being, we're being repressed. That kind of thing. It's just, it's silliness. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words. I don't know how to explain it properly. If you watch and just think about it coming from the idea of efficiency and not from the angle that they're trying to show you, which is the idea that this is all done on purpose because the government hates people with cars. No. If the government's agenda was that simple, you'd think, you'd think you wouldn't have to present it in such a fashion. And, I mean, for things like this, okay, here's the other thing. So, and what I am about to say, or what I was about to say, before this disclaimer, would have sounded like, well, look at him, he's far too trusting of the government. And, yeah, the government's pretty shady sometimes. It happens. And, it's not necessarily something we the people should be okay with, because we sort of deserve to know what's going on. On the flip side, sometimes it's really important to have national security like that and keep things under wraps, but I digress. There's a middle ground to be had here, and the fact of the matter is there's not, not everything goes one way over the other. The thing is, when it comes to something like this, and I know something like this is a very, very ambiguous term, but when it comes to something like this, you are better off just believing what is told to you and following what is told to you by the people who are actually in charge of making it happen, instead of the other guys. Because these kind of things are generally pushed by community advocates and not, well, anybody else. They're the kind of people that want to see other ways to get in, that want to get rid of the congestion. What is the downside to these things if you don't, if you don't make the leap to assume that they're done because the government hates cars? And that's you know, it's a stretch, and I've said it already. It's a stretch. It doesn't really make sense. It isn't supposed to make sense, I would wager. But there's no other repercussions. It's just trying to, you know, it's trying to make the city, or wherever, more accessible for everybody, not just the users of cars. And it's trying to prevent people other solutions. And I'll be honest, I take the commuter rail in every day to Boston. It takes me about an hour and 20 minutes from the station. That's not including my ride to the station. But it is worlds better in, I'm not sure if in terms of a time standpoint, although, yeah, it definitely is, if you count in traffic, probably. But to be dropped off within 3 blocks of my office by something that I don't have to worry about parking for, I pay a single flat rate for all the time, and will just show up at a pre-scheduled time to take me home at the end of the day, is way better than the alternative, which is driving up there, searching for a parking spot, paying however much that goddamn spot is, also getting stuck in traffic on the way there and on the way out. You know, it's not costing me all that much. It's not killing me to have to take, or to take, not to have to take, but just to take in general, the commuter rail. And that's what, you know, that's what these kind of things are trying to nudge people in the direction of. It's like, hey, this is okay, this is a good idea. There's a negative social stigma against taking the bus for some reason. And admittedly, I'm probably one of those people. I may be the poster child for it. I don't really like taking buses. The reason I don't like taking buses is because buses make me car sick. But that's not really a social stigma then, I guess. But I don't like taking buses, and generally I'll try to avoid taking a bus. But they're definitely something I will consider if there isn't another way to get from point A to point B. If it costs me a little bit more, maybe takes a little bit more time, yeah, sure, I'll take the train. It's not a big deal. I love taking the train. If it's over a long distance that might not be served very well by anything else, yeah, then I'll drive. But the existence of the bus service is not hindering my ability to drive that long distance. And for the most part, it's not a problem at all. Now, the obvious thing I'm overlooking is perhaps the reason it was so difficult for me to find a parking spot when I went and drove to Boston is because because of these laws and changes and these things that are, trying to keep cars from coming into cities. But I don't really think that's true because A, there's street side parking everywhere. It's just expensive. And B, there are also parking lots everywhere, but they're also expensive. They weren't full, they were just outrageously priced because they know there's no space. There's no space, there's no place to put all these cars. So they build these lots and then they, this is not the same thing, but people build the lots and then they get to charge these outrageous prices because they're the only place to park the car. Because there's no other space in a city like Boston. It's not like they did away with it. It just never existed. And that will happen more and more as cities grow up. Even a city like Portland, where there are a lot of parking spaces. And roadside parking, the kind of thing that we're, going to be replacing with bike lanes. In this instance. It's not... It's not going to be enough in the long term if everyone just drives their car. It's not going to be enough. It's just, as you get more and more people heading into a city, you need more and more efficient methods to get them in, out, and around it. And the car is not the answer to that method, because more people in the same area, rising property values, taller buildings, more people, and the cycle continues. So you end up with these with these ever-growing cities where people are more and more inclined to come in somehow. And if you can encourage them to come in using a method that won't clog the streets up, or the air up, as well, to bring in another point, a different kind of efficiency, then that's a good thing. That's you have to try really, really hard to spin that negatively. It's like, well, I can't come in and leave every, in the precise moment that I want to. Well, why do you have to? I mean, I get that it's good to be able to go on your own, when you want, but especially with good commuter services, the headways are pretty damn tight. It's not like we're dealing with the Sunset Limited over here where you get a train every 2 days. It's commuter rail. You get a train probably once every hour, or once every 2 hours at worst if we're talking MBTA. Most, I'm pretty sure MTA across the board, it's once an hour at worst, probably. I don't know. That's just vague recollections of reading that schedule last time I went to New York City. So the point I'm trying to make is it's not that restrictive, and it's more efficient when you factor in the price of parking at these, these private lots that are crazy expensive. It's probably less expensive, and I know for me it usually would be. Plus, actually, gas. I do forget about that sometimes. It's like, oh, it's parking, it's $24 for me to take the train if I don't get a monthly pass, which I've gotten the monthly pass because I go there every day and it's worth it. But I think about that, like, oh, it's so much money per day to take the train. But then I think about the time it's probably saving me overall, because it is a long commute no matter what. The time I don't have to spend sitting in traffic, twiddling my fingers doing nothing. The fact that when I'm sitting on the train, I can do something. I can be on my laptop, usually writing episodes of the Iron Horseman Chronicles. That's what I've been doing lately on the train. And then on top of that, the fact that I don't have to pay for gas. It's one flat rate. I know I'm not going to be sitting idling, burning money out of my tailpipe. I know I don't have the most efficient car in the world, but burning money out of my tailpipe because of something that's not my fault and I can't possibly ever get reimbursed for. If I get stuck on a train that happens, that delays me by X amount of time, if it's enough time, I can definitely go to the company and be like, hey, I was stuck on a train that delayed me for X amount of time. And they'll be like, oh, here's a free ticket. Because they're like, there are people on the other end of the phone and they understand what it's like to be stuck on a train. But that's, that's only semi-relevant to what the points I was trying to make. It's, it's in, like, everyone's best interest for cities to become as car independent as they can. And that's the other thing I was thinking about. So that's the other thing I was thinking about. The ad has to be directed at people who go to, or either go to big cities or live in big cities or frequent big cities or something like that. Maybe, suburbanites maybe as well, because it talks a lot about things that have happened in cities to limit car access. Or at the same time, no, actually, that's probably not true. It's probably targeted at people who have never been to cities and don't understand the plight of getting stuck in city traffic and just assume that the idea of these city slicker politicians trying to take all your cars away is just something that eventually happens. And it's not because of certain reason like horrible traffic. And actually, now that I think about it, that's probably the point. It's the people that live in the city and that know the laws and the changes especially and why they're happening and are probably quite hopeful for it because, let's be honest, any way around the traffic is a good way around the traffic, whether it's, whether it's on a bus or a tram or a subway or a train or on a bike. Any way around the traffic is a good way around the traffic. And and those are the people that are probably cheering on these changes, whereas the people that just don't know why, that's it too. Because if you're like me and you go to a city a lot, you probably understand, and you probably, are either subject to or talk about or read about or, whatever, or even benefit from these kinds of changes. Even just the more efficient engines thing. It's more subtle, but places like Los Angeles are famous for their traffic. Los Angeles especially. And Los Angeles has, like when I think smog, I think Los Angeles. Because so many cars crammed into such a little space, stuck in traffic all the time, and that's a lesser thing. But everybody's driving these cars, pumping out pollutants, and it just hangs around. And it's smog. It's just what smog is. It's not great. It's not, some highly debated pseudo-principle of life or whatever. Or, how nature works or something like that. No, it's, things come out of your tailpipe. If you want to question that, go into a garage, shut the door, turn on the car, and sit there for a while. Don't actually do this, for the record, you'll die. But it's not, it's not a contested position to say that cars make pollutants. Because they do. They make a lot of them. And Los Angeles is a very good example of this. And so, making it more, making things more efficient, reducing the overall amount of pollutants is very, very good for everyone there, because it means that there are just less in the air. It means that even if even if the same number of people have the same number of cars and drive the same number of miles, they're going to be more efficient miles, they're going to be cleaner miles, and the air in general is going to be better. There are much worse cities than LA as well. There are cities in China that are absolutely racked. China and a lot of Asian countries, but I think of China for whatever reason because I've seen, these horrible pictures. Mostly because China just sort of jumped into the industrial age sort of in the middle. And so they rapidly expanded the amount they were consuming and producing in terms of pollutants and in terms of fossil fuels on the consumption side. So that's just what happened, and then they developed some really bad pollution problems from it. It's basically, you can turn to that and point it out as a huge pseudo-experiment that basically says, yes, what do you know, when you have more cars and more people and more burning, you get more pollutants. Who would have thought? But, it's the kind of thing where apparently that's something we need to argue on. And apparently that's something that is going to be contested, the idea that we should probably try to reduce, the amount of pollutants by any way possible. If you're, if you only live in a place with clean mountain air or wide open plains, then I can understand if you don't really get it. But at least then leave it to the people who do. The city slickers like yours truly, who thankfully I haven't to suffer through Boston smog, because there really isn't much of it. Boston is like a very well done city in terms of public transportation, not in terms of city planning whatsoever. Yes, Boston will not ever win city planning awards. It's not going to happen. If you ever been to Boston, you know why. If you haven't been to Boston, just look it up on Google Maps and you'll see why. Roads are squiggly AF. So anyways, yeah, it's the kind of city that was designed with that kind of stuff in mind. Well, no, it wasn't. Sorry. It's the kind of city that got metros early and kept them. The tram system, although there used to be more of it, of course. The subway system, which is pretty damn good. The commuter rail system, which is second to very few. You know, New York pretty much only beats it out. I don't know how SEPTA does, actually. SEPTA's okay. My approval of SEPTA went up since I went to Philadelphia. So, anyways, yeah, no, they, it's the kind of city that does well for itself in that department. And I think that's very good. And it's sort of, you know, it basically, you look at Boston, and just the example alone can refute some of the points of the bad things that the video is trying to make. Because it's very clear, once you experience it, they aren't bad things. They're, you know, they're in fact very good things. They're important to keeping the city clean and the people healthy, and the traffic down to, well, I would say a minimum, but it's not a minimum. Also, I deleted some of my Burma Shave signs. Son of a gun, I'm gonna have to put them back. I'll put back a different one than the one I showed off. I'll use that one somewhere else. Need more water. Hold on. Anyways, I'm one of those city folk. I know a lot of people that like trains and that fall in the sort of, you know, umbrella are not city folk, in a sense. You know, these are people that I'm sure would love to go back and forth on me with these points of, you know, is the removal of these parking spaces good? You know, this idea that personal freedom is so incredibly important, and, you know, that's something that changes on an individual basis. You know, how important is that to you? Is it, you know, is the traffic worth it? You know, just being able to go in on your own and go out on your own. And, you know, I'm sure there are some people that would say yes, because they want that freedom, and I get it. But I feel like for the vast majority of people that have to deal with the traffic, like I said, any alternative is preferable. Any alternative is preferable. That wasn't a very good Benjamin or Leonard Church, but I can get into it better if I try. That's the point. These, you know, yeah. The regulations are the only ones I can't battle in this way, because, yeah, people get up in arms, they get upset about these regulations, they get upset about, you know, well, they get upset about the government clamping down on anything, which is understandable, because, again, you want your personal freedoms, you want to be able to do whatever you want, buy whatever you want. But, like I've already covered, it's really just better for everyone if we have them in place, because breathing is good, guys. Like, it's really good. Not sure if you've tried it. Okay, we managed to cover that area without a hitch. Where did we go up to? We went up to right there, we went around here. We went up to here because I didn't put the grass in yet. We went around here. This area needs it, right? This area does. And this area does too. Okay, this area needs edge grass. Oh no, we're gonna get the sheep. I need to not go too close to there. But yeah, no, personal freedoms are important, I will admit that. And, you know, I'm not gonna get into these, you know, there are other places a debate can go from here, other sort of debate topics that have been well, that are hotly contested and have been for a long time and will be for a long time more, probably. And I'm sure you guys know which one in particular. Oh, there are the sheep I'm alluding to or thinking of regarding personal freedoms. And that's the kind of thing where I'm not necessarily going to get into it, because what's the point right now? You know, first, you know, there's no reason I'm talking about cars. I'm talking about cars, not anything else. But it's extremely important, and this is my op-ed portion. It's extremely important to build good public transportation within a city, and also other ways to get around for people who do not want to get stuck in the car traffic. You know, that includes things like bike lanes and bike paths, although bike paths sometimes can be met with significant contention from certain people. And sometimes there are very good reasons why, and we've had discussions regarding this on the Terminus before, and this, there's next Terminus, we are gonna come back to one of them, because I just saw an article regarding it, that got posted on the guest list. So, that's gonna come up again. It's gonna be fun. Anyways, that's the kind of thing that we have to think about, you know, and that city planners have to think about, and it's the question of, well, you know, it's the idea of, well, if we build it, they will come, but sometimes that doesn't happen. For example, with Wickford Junction here in Rhode Island, we built this nice new station. We built 2 new stations, as a matter of fact, and the one at the end of the line is in such a place to prevent, or to help with commuting down Rhode Island Route 4, which connects US Route 1, which sort of skirts around the southern end of the state and then into Connecticut to the west, and Interstate 95, which cuts diagonally across the state and then goes right up the middle to Providence. They both go to Providence, but Route 4 is in a peculiar place where you want to get from one to the other. You don't want to take Route 1 into Providence. It's it's a U.S. highway, not an interstate, so it doesn't meet the design specifications that you'd hope for, and thus there's traffic lights everywhere and stuff like that. Not the kind of road you're going to ride many, many miles into work every day when there's an interstate right there. But the Route 4, which, again, it's a Rhode Island route, it's not an interstate, it's not a U.S. highway, but it is a route, and it's built mostly to interstate standards, more or less. It's got 2 intersections on it. It gets very, very crowded. It gets hugely full of traffic in all seasons for all sorts of reasons. Work is one of them, beach is another one, but I don't think RIDOT is going to be fixing the beach problem by, like, rebuilding the Narragansett Pier Railroad or something like that anytime soon. Mostly because that is a bike path right now. But where did I just move? Oh, whoops, I'm in the wrong tab. But the idea was, okay, we'll build this new commuter rail station, and then people will use it. We'll park here, it's free parking. They'll bypass Route 4 and take the train into Providence. And people didn't. So the issue was, how do we get people to drive into Providence? Now, Providence already, just to preface, is, and this is not disparaging Providence, it is not a very car-friendly city. There are not nearly as many randomly scattered parking lots as Boston, and the parking meters you may find, the on-street parking, because Providence doesn't have a lot of bike lanes either, the on-street parking you find is either expensive or just has a time limit that makes it unfavorable, or is, in most cases, already taken. So it's difficult to park in Providence. It's sort of like a trainer course for an actual big city, in that you don't want to drive into it. So they wanted to get people to they wanted to get people to take the train. And so one of the things that RIDOT came up with, the Rhode Island Department of Transportation came up with, was, well, we're going to make the trains free for half the year. And they estimated that to cover everyone's fare, it would be like a few $100,000 for everyone who will use the commuter rail, period, between Wickford Junction and Providence, between it now, or between July 3rd and the end of the year. That is not a lot of money, considering the trains are like 8 cars long and you can fit a lot of people on one. Basically, they aren't very optimistic. And as well, they have a reason not to be. Nobody uses the damn train, as I covered already. But they wanted to provide that incentive, and I know a couple of people who have taken advantage of it, myself included. And I think it's great. I think it was a great opportunity to show off what that can do. It's just the question of, will it get out there to enough people? Will people try it? Will people like it? And will it be convenient enough? I think it's all of $3 to get back and forth, so it's not like the price is really standing in anybody's way. Will it actually catch on, take hold, do better than what they had? They spent all this money on the station. They're going to continue providing service to it, pretty much until the cows come home. But they want people to actually use the service, surprise, surprise. So they made the commuter rail free between these 3 stations, between Wickford Junction, TF Green, where I get on every morning, and Providence. So if you're staying in the state of Rhode Island, commuter rail's free. Again, I personally have seen a little bit more in the way of people using it at this point, but I'm not sure if it's doing exactly what they were hoping for. I haven't gone down there for a count or talked to anybody who's really involved in that project lately, so I wouldn't know. Now, the other thing is, though, that's the encouragement. Then you have to have the flip side, which is the discouragement. I already talked about that parking in Providence is difficult. That was not something they had to contrive. The contrived things are, well, the video was talking about. The paving, the inverse paving paradise, so you tear down a parking lot and put up a park instead, or the getting rid of street side parking in favor of bike lanes in order to make the city more favorable for these other things. And the reason the parks are there instead, well, just aside from the air quality thing, the reason the parks are there instead is because you want to create an environment where people want to spend their free time there. And making it a full-on concrete jungle, not the way to do that. It's how you get people to not want to come down and hang around for no particular reason. Especially the people that have the extra time suddenly, I need to get rid of all these trees, have the extra time suddenly as they wait for their trains. So you've got to make it more appealing in multiple ways, and that doing away with those, well, not the doing away with, but the replacing of the car-centric things with a more people-centric thing is the direction that most cities want to move in. Again, for the sake of better quality of life overall for citizens, no matter what they're driving, or riding, I should say. No, that doesn't belong there. Get rid of you. Alright, sure that's good enough. Let's get rid of that one though. Alright, that looks good, I think. We got this area. Sweet, moves the spot. I think we should be fine. But these are the kind of things that are happening in these urban areas. They aren't the kind of things that are going to happen to nowhere, Kentucky, unless that's a real town and it's an urban area, because there aren't enough people to warrant this. You aren't reaching the point where congestion between cars is an actual problem, and thus the sort of, you know, the encouragement and creation of other ways to get in and around is necessary. Again, that's the only reason this happens. It's not some sort of giant conspiracy. It's not a innate hatred of freedom that comes from bureaucratic organizations, even if they feel like it, you know, even if it seems like it sometimes. If you ever, you know, stood inside the DMV, it's just like they're sapping your life away. But it's the kind of thing that is a direct counter to it's a direct counter to the fact that more people come into cities get congested. Well, what do we do now? You know, there's no quick and dirty answer to that, and the best answer people have found is to create other ways that don't create congestion. It's a practicality thing. And I've got to say it one more time because it's just sort of the root and the heart and the everything of what bugged me about this advertisement, which was the information contained within may be at least somewhat factual, but the reasons behind all of it are off. It's about efficiency and productivity and quality of life. It's not about removal of freedom or evil or, you know, just general badness. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's about letting people get around. You know, maybe not in their number one preferred method, but getting around is better than getting stuck in traffic. So, at least in my opinion, if you want to go sit in traffic, by all means, go on. Go ahead. Go ahead. I won't be sitting. I'll be the guy in the window of the train as it rolls by the highway going, sucker, because I do that like every day. Every day. Coming home, if it's early enough, if the traffic is still there, because sometimes I have to come home later than I otherwise would like, and so the traffic is mostly dissipated. But to look out the window of the second story on a Bombardier bi-level coach, I don't think they're actually Bombardier, and see the people on I-95 South stuck in traffic heading towards the city of Providence, like in rush hour traffic, it just makes me, it makes me want to go, suckers, take the train. Or in the mornings, it's even more prevalent because that's heading towards the city of Providence. AM rush hour, people are going to work. And I'm looking out the window of the train. I mean, I'm generally too early for this because I get on the train early because I have to get to Boston, which is wicked far. And there's all these people that are on I-95 North heading into Providence, and they're stuck in an area with basically no exits that I like to call the trench, because it feels like one, because it is one. And it runs through Cranston. And oh man, is that place just rife with traffic all the time. It doesn't even have to be rush hour. You know, I don't get to see the worst of it, but I know. I know because I've lived in Rhode Island my entire life. That area is not good. And this, you know, the commuter rail goes right by it, right from Warwick to Cranston, or well, to Providence. There's no station in Cranston, there hasn't been for years and years and years. But that'd be nice to have. Maybe it'll happen someday. get one of these doohickeys. Anyways, I've been wanting to create, and Julie suggested adding a prairie roster too, but I might hold back on that. Oh, I missed a comment. Alright, I'll do this real quick. Oh, I missed two actually. Stephen Binkley, it's like trying to get a 10 out of it's like trying to get a 10 out of 10 girl. It takes work. Yes. And because I talked about Madison quite a bit last episode. And then Rob Rowan says, now that you're almost done with this branch, how much more is there to do on the rest of the route before you say it's done? And TBA pretty much answers for me. He goes, haha, so much more, dude. This is only a small portion of what this route is going to be. So if you go back to episode 1, you can see where we are. Also, this looks effing beautiful now. I love it. We're in Olive. It's at the top of the map. This is not on the map. And we haven't even encountered 2 of the major railroads. But it's going to be, you know, maybe 20 miles in this direction before we actually hit the next thing, and it's probably just an interlocking. I was thinking maybe 40 miles between major towns. So this one in the next town is, I think, Bellevue? No, let me pull that up real quick because I can. Just while we're here, I know the video's going a little bit long, but it's not a terribly big deal. Maps. You guys can't see this, unfortunately. I used to record this differently, so you could, but I forgot about doing that, and then I just stopped. Where is it? Oh, there it is. It looks different than the other ones because it's an older style of mine. The next, oh, it's Bellington. Close. But yeah, no, it's a pretty good distance away. It's, you know, like I said, it's like 40 miles away. So that means it's going to be like a total of 160 or something like that. Probably longer, all the way around to the south end, which is Wambach, which is like way, 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 way around this way. Way out and around, because Gilson City's over here somewhere, probably. I haven't measured it out. And then there's other stuff in here. Some routes go straight through. Our route goes around. Another route goes like this, and then one goes like that. So, yeah, there's a lot more to do. But Olive itself, again, I'm going to release standalone when it's done. So, keep a lookout for little bits relating to Olive. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Trainman out.